Moving ahead to the presentations of the day, we have my colleagues Ms. Shilpa and Ms. Falguni taking us through the presentations. Ms. Shilpa is an occupational therapist by profession with a master's degree in pediatrics. She's also certified in sensory integration, handwriting without tears, and OPT levels 1 and 2. She has been with the Comdeal Trust for about 10 years now and is a certified master trainer of the Trust. Ms. Shilpa currently coordinates the training activities at the center and also enthusiastically takes part in the development of Communicaids. Ms. Falguni holds a master's degree in physiotherapy. She has about 10 years of experience in the field. She's a certified group leader of the Comdeal Trust, loves to work with children in a fun and playful manner. Welcome both of you, and over to you.
Falguni, please share your screen.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Ria, for the wonderful introduction. So the first presentation of the day is Fun with Movement, and this is a kit developed by me and my colleague, Ms. Falguni. Now, the purpose behind, I would just like to give you a brief about why we came with the idea of developing this kit. In our clinical experience, we see that a lot many kids with ASD, though they look normal, when I say normal in terms of their motor development, they can sit, stand, walk, run, climb, hang. So all these stuff they are able to do, but when we go deep into assessment and analyze them thoroughly, what we realize is that they have issues with complex motor skills, which we also called it as motor planning. Now, motor planning are the motor actions that are planned in advance of the intended goal. For example, if I want to eat my food, so I'll adjust my body, I'll hold the spoon in a proper position, and then I'll just take the food and put it in my mouth. So this entire step requires motor planning. Okay. Now, also, again, another example can be wearing a jacket or wearing a shirt. So, though the gross motor skills seems fine, but the motor planning is the area which is sometimes lacking in children with ASD. Now, I just wanted to brief you about how a typically developing child grow versus an ASD child. Now, in a typically growing child, there is an inner drive to move, explore, and try new things. They master each challenge and feel successful. Now, this success leads to mastering of new and more complex skills. Now, when this inner drive is not there, or when it does not develop naturally, a child may avoid movement activities. Now, if the child is avoiding movement activities, it affects his school participation, which in turn affects his social skills and social interaction. So this kit was developed and released in the year 2019. And to explain the kit, we have Ms. Falguni here. She will take you through the entire kit, what are its content and the activities. Over to you, Falguni.
Thank you, Shilpa. Okay, so you can see this kit is a very handy and comes in a small pouch. So what is the main features of the kit is this Fun with Movement is a set of a card deck which contains 33 visual cards of activities which are simple and fun based. So it has a small card which you can carry anywhere. This kit is very handy, so to carry anywhere. And this kit contains activities which are divided in 5 main categories. So first is a motor imitation, body awareness, motor movements, directional and postural awareness. So let's talk about motor imitation. So what is motor imitation? So motor imitation is the ability or task of mimicking and reproducing the same movement from the another person. So we say child to raise your arm. So child has to look at you and has to imitate the same movement. So where if we see that our ASD kids are mostly lacking in this domains, motor imitation, and they have a very poor skill in motor imitation or imitating others. So in ComDeal group program, we generally start working on these skills from the day one. Next is a body awareness. So what is body awareness? Body awareness is the awareness of their own body in the space, how to use their body in the space. So if we say that if you tell the child to touch his nose or ears or maybe lips, may child know that where it is located. But to touch the nose, child should understand that he has to bend his elbow, he has to point his finger, and then he has to touch his nose. Or if we say touch your toes, so though child knows what is toes and where it is available, but when we tell the child to touch their own toes, child should understand that to touch the toes, I have to bend my body down and touch the toes. So this body awareness is also lacking in our most of the ASD kids. When we see that their muscle tone is very low and sitting for a longer time on the chair, and those kind of things are difficult for the kids due to less body awareness. Motor movements. So what is the motor movements? Motor movements is the ability to perform a task using their whole body, which includes running activities, jumping activities, or we'll say climbing a staircase or any park activities where the child has to use their whole body. Next is a directional awareness. So directional awareness itself calls direction. So where the child has to understand when we request the child to go forward or come backward. So child should understand those kind of direction, maybe up and down, turn around, or go right, go left. Those kind of movements child has to perform. So directional awareness are also very poor in our ASD kids. Next is the postural awareness. So what is postural awareness? So postural awareness is the ability to perform a task using their whole body in a coordinated way. So if we say example, playing a cricket. So to play a cricket for the child first need to hold the bat properly in the hand, to position the bat on the ground, and to bend his body in a particular angle to hit the ball. Postural awareness is also very less in our ASD kids, where the child is not able to perform so many sports activities. And if you see, when they go to the regular schools, sometime they will end up not participating in the sports. So these activities will help the child to improve their motor control, then balance and coordination, motor imitation, flexibility, muscle strength, muscle tone. As we all know that our ASD kids has low muscle tone and always has a difficulty to perform a motor task. And motor planning, as Shilpa said, that to perform any task, child requires motor planning. So if we say, like, if you put the child near the tunnel, child will not understand that how to go through the tunnel. Or maybe if you trap the child in hula hoop, child will not be able to understand that how to come out. Should I sit down and come out, or I can cross the hula hoop and can come out? So motor planning is also lacking in the kids. What is the content of this manual? So as I said that this manual has a visual cards with color coding. So in this we have a 5 domains which I spoke about. And if you see motor imitation, which is in a green color, body awareness is in a blue color, motor movement is in a pink color, sorry, red color, directional awareness is in a pink color, and postural awareness is in a yellow color. So how to read this card? So if we take, for example, directional awareness, which is in a pink color, which is a directional awareness, where the activity number 29, which is a track games, and you can see that 29A is walk on a line, and 29B is follow the pathway or footprint. So these activities, there are many more pictures in the kit also. So this manual is this manual contains a pamphlet also, where all the domains has extra activities and guidelines, that once you complete those activities, how to go ahead with the new activities. It has a checklist also. This kit has a checklist also, where the parents and professional can track their child progress. So once you complete those activities, you can see the checklist and find out that where the child is lacking and which skills needs to be improved further. There are some pictures we have taken during our group program. So all these activities we have actually practiced with the kids. You can see the obstacle course, first activity, and then you can see the track games which kids enjoyed a lot, and end of the year they all started following independently. Here we have a TheraBand activities, where you can see it's happening in the group, and kids were really enjoying those activities. And again, end of the year they all started practicing alone independently. Obstacle course, so we take every day different kind of obstacle course. Imitation, this is the imitation activity. Motor imitation, so we take music with movement, and we perform all the motor imitation activities. So this kit is this Communicaids received CB Cariappa Memorial Award in 2019. You can order your copy on communicaids.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Falguni. I request all the participants to ask questions regarding Fun with Movement Communicaids, if you have any, towards the end of all the 3 presentations. So, Falguni, you can stop sharing screen. On moving on to our next PPT, that is on toilet training manual, and this is the Communicaids that we released in the year 2016, And this is a very handy and a small booklet, and till today it has helped many families and professionals to make the kids independent in the toileting skills. Now, what is the purpose behind this Communicate is to help parents and professionals to achieve uh, bladder and bowel independence in children, and look at various aspects that hinders toilet training, and provide strategies that will lead to success in achieving independence. What we realized is, in Bangalore, not in Bangalore, even in many big cities, one of the admission criteria in school is, in mainstream school, is whether the child is toilet trained or not. Now, what is happening in the preschool, teachers are insisting children to come in diapers if they are not toilet trained. And when they go to mainstream, of course, the teachers expect the kids to be off the diaper. So our kids really are struggling when it comes to toileting skills. And sometimes what we see is, during the course of 10 months intervention, we have a success rate in toileting independence ranging from 85 to 90%. Most of the kids become toileting independent by the end of the group intervention program. So I would like to talk about three key steps before toilet training. So one is we need to look at the age of the child. Okay, so before we begin the actual toilet training, we need to look at, if the child is ready or not. Uh, by saying this, I mean, if the child is not able to even locate the toilet, if the child don't know the association between passing urine and potty with the toilet area, then I would say that the child still needs time. It still needs time. He is not ready. Now, when early we should start toilet training, the correct age is after 18 months. Okay, and these days, not even in children with ASD and other developmental disorders, but a normal child also, the toilet training is getting delayed. The independence is getting delayed in normal children also because of over dependence with diapers in. So because since both the parents are working, or it could be due to many reasons, both the parents working, over pampering by grandparents, but yeah, and diaper is very handy. And since the child is in diaper, child child toileting control or a urine control gets delayed. Okay, so we need to look at how ready the child is, age of the child, and understanding child's routine before we actually begin the toilet training. Okay, so these are the strategies that are strongly recommended to all the parents and professionals to guide the parents. One is using communication during toilet training, which is very important because indication is what we will look at first. And here at Comdeal, as a team, we have a speech therapist, developmental educator, and we all follow one kind of indication, and same we can also tell the parents to follow. It can also go in a reverse manner. If parents are following something, we also take it from them and we follow the same. So indication can be verbal or visual, but we have to teach the child to indicate. Okay. Then second is the habit training. So at Comdeal, we use elimination record, and I will be talking about this in my next slide. Prompts. Now prompts can be visual, verbal, and tactile. And we need to eventually fade the prompts when the child is toilet trained and when the child has a strong association of bladder and bowel with the toilet area. The fourth one is praises and rewards. Praises can be verbal, well done, good job, or you can make a star on child's hand, motivation is very important. For every little success, if parents can motivate the child, he will look forward to use the toilet over and over again. Now, rewards. Now, there are quite a few research articles on use of rewards while training the child. Now, one important aspect that I would look at as a therapist is use the reward uh, and keep the reward basically in sight. I mean, the parent has to identify few rewards, like it can be as easy as, bubble solution or a car or something that the child really likes. So he look forward to go to the toilet, and because he will get a reward. Now, the USP here is the rewards which the parents are identifying, they will not come outside the toilet till the child becomes toilet trained. Okay. So we also tell the parent to not to identify rewards as such as iPads or any gadget that you need to take it outside the toilet, because if the child is getting it otherwise also, he will not look forward to use the toilet. Okay, I hope you are getting it. If there are any questions regarding the strategies, I request you to please post it at the chat box. Modeling. Now, modeling can be done by a parent. Modeling, so when a parent is using the toilet, the child should see it, how they are using it. Modeling can also be done with child's favorite toys. So make the teddy bear sit on a potty seat, and the parents can talk about what do we do here. Then the visual supports. Visuals, again, in my next slide, I would like to talk to you a little more about this. Social stories, which are already covered by Ms. Nirupama Srikanth, and environmental adaptation. Sensory issues does play a role in toileting independence. So, but since it's an important skill, we would and we would insist the parent to modify our environment little bit so that the child can confidently use the toilet. Now, at DEALL program, we use the visual card consistently. Now, these visual cards can be used to prepare the child, and eventually for the child to indicate the therapist that he needs to use the bathroom area. Okay, so again, we create a small social stories also. If the child has accident, we never get angry on the child, and same thing we tell the parent also. And and we can create a social story which says, when I need to use the toilet, I can say auntie susu, I can say mama susu, or I can pull down my pants. So whatever the child verbal level is, we can create a social story according to that. Now, this is the elimination record that we generally use in ComDeal. Now, this is a record which, if you can see, there is a date column and there are 7 columns. So before beginning, we have to train the parent how to record it. So on your left hand side, sorry, on your right hand side, you can see there is a filled form by one of the parent. Now, if I have to analyze what's going wrong with this child, I would say that, of course, the toileting skills are not settled. Plus, the bowel movements are also not settled. One day he's going at 9, one day he's going in the afternoon, 3:30. There are certain days where he did not even pass his bowel movement. So the 7-day recording is important for the therapist to figure out what's going wrong. Is there any issue with the bladder muscles? Are there any issue with the diet that the child is taking? Why is he not going or passing the bowels every day? And all these things disturbs the child, and it definitely interferes with the learning process. Okay, So in the toilet training manual, in this manual, we have this schedule which says it's a toilet time and what the child has to do, the step-by-step procedure, or what do we expect the child to do when he enters the bathroom area. Okay, so talking to you a little more about the environmental modification. As I mentioned, there are sometimes sensory issues that interferes with the toilet training. For example, parents say that he is afraid of the adult seat. So in that case, we can definitely tell the parent to buy a potty chair for the child, and that potty chair can be kept just near to the adult chair so that the transition becomes easy. Because if we keep it anywhere outside, then the child, and we already know that children with ASD have transition issues. To bring the potty chair from outside to inside will be a battle with the child. So we don't want that to happen. Then the another modification can be put a small stool at the feet so that the feet are grounded and not hanging, and the child is balanced while sitting on the adult potty seat. There are many other modifications that we need to figure out. If there is an issue with the smell, if there is an issue with the toilet being wet and the child do not want to enter inside. So a sensory profile gives us a good idea about the sensory processing skills of the child, and we can make necessary modification so that the child becomes independent. This is the parent feedback that we got. I can just leave the slide for 1 minute for you all to read. Now here, so the reward, why I have chosen this feedback, because the parent have identified the reward as a favorite remote car, which I feel that, you know, the reward can be something small, which you can put it in the toilet and do not take it out. Now here they have chosen this, it's okay, but you know, again, you need to tell the parent not to choose iPad or gadgets or anything, because we need to take them out. The reward can be very simple and very small. It can be a small car, it can be bubbles, it can be balloons, it can be anything hanging, etc. Okay, so this manual also received the CV Karyappa Award for the Best Communicate of the Year 2016. And you can order online at this link, but if you wish to read the manual. But also I would strongly insist, those of you who are professionals and are in this field, you must recommend this manual to all the parents that you deal with every day. Thank you so much.
Just to mention once again, we will be having taking questions at the end of all the presentations. So keep your questions for then. Leave them in the chat box, please. Shilpa will be continuing with the third presentation for the day.
Oromotor assessment manual and kit, one of my favorites. So the day I am in ComDeal, I'm working on this area. Earlier in my master's and in fact in my bachelor's also, I've developed a oromotor kit for a cerebral palsy child. Then during my master's, I also did not get much exposure in the field of ASD. And after coming to ComDeal, I realized that yes, children with ASD do have oromotor issues, and we can definitely treat them. And as of till now, the success rate in developing oromotor skill is very high. Okay, So oromotor development refers to the movement and coordinated use of oral structures that I think all of you are aware of. It's a coordinated use of tongue, jaw, lips, and palate. And this is important for facilitating speech, tolerating various food textures, and feeding independence. Now, normal oromotor development begins before birth and it completes by age 3 to 4. So, we can expect that by age 4, most of the children jaw stabilization happens and children can safely consume solids, semi-solid, liquids, etc. and mixed texture food without choking. Now, before I begin the assessment, I just wanted to make certain things clear. Oromotor skill and intervention is a very vast topic. So I will be just giving you brief about what we are doing at Comdeal and what is our experiences, what are the contents in the Oromotor kit. And if you need further training and further knowledge on this particular area, we are open to train you regarding the same. Okay. So this manual has assesses oromotor skills in 4 areas, that is jaw movement, lip movement, tongue movements, and speech in young children. So this is how it looked like. So jaw movement, there are 3 scores that we assess the child on. One is consistently present, inconsistently present, and no. So if all the question answer is no, is when the child gets the full score, which is 12. Okay. Now, so basically here we are checking how well the child is doing biting, chewing, how is the jaw muscle tone. If for example, if the child muscle tone is low, the jaw will be in a little open posture. Okay, and that interferes with chewing and biting also. Tongue movements here, the score key is little different. We test we test the children on 3 rate. We rate them as no, the movements are present only spontaneously, and or the movements are present on demand also. So if the child is able to imitate us or can produce the movement on demand, the child gets the full score here. Now, when doing oromotor testing, this test looks very small, concise, and simple. But believe me, we both of us, so myself and a speech therapist, both of us does this assessment and observe the child in a very structured manner. We tell the parent to to bring something to eat for the child, and test each and every area of whatever is mentioned in the checklist. Again, in the lip movements, we see the lip musculature, the tone in the lip muscles, the strength in the lip muscles. So again, testing blowing, sucking, whether the child can pucker, purse the lips, etc. Now, the last domain that we test is the speech, whether the speech is present on demand, it's present spontaneously, or it's not there at all. Okay, so again, though the test is in English, and in our clinical experience, we feel that, sometimes child don't understand or don't give a response in English. So we tell the parent to make the child understand in their own regional language. And at that time also, we give if the child is able to do, we give the full score to the child. So for example, in question number 26, it's written that if the child can say multisyllabic words, but if the child can say it in regional language, we give the score to the child. Okay, so as I said, the highest score in the checklist is 59. Okay, now there are 3 pictures that you see on my screen. So again, this is while interacting with the child, we make our observation. If you see the girl, which is who is in first picture, I would say the lip is in open posture. Okay, and definitely when the parent came, there was a delay in speech. Oromotor skills were not up to the mark, and there were many other issues regarding with regards to tone, the overall body tone. In the second picture, if you see, there is a tongue thrust. The tongue is protruded, and the lip is in open posture. The jaw is not stabilized at all. I can see there is a jaw asymmetry. Okay. In the third picture, if you see, there is this little boy who is trying to eat with spoon. Now here his posture being not right is because of that there was swallowing issues with this child. Okay, so just wanted to show you some pre and post intervention profile that we do in ComDeal. Oromotor assessments are usually done thrice in a year, and when you see in the baseline the score of the sorry the the baseline score as compared to the post intervention score, there is a significant improvement in the child in all the areas as compared to when this child came. Jaw, tongue, lips and speech all were inadequate for his age. Okay, so moving on to Oromotor kit. So this kit, so Oromotor kit is divided into two. There is kit 1 and kit 2, and there is a manual which is provided with kit 1 as you see in the picture. This is our first Communicate, which is developed by Miss Ujjwala Alluri in 2004. And post that, we have revised it in 2012 and 2016. So it addresses oromotor and orosensory issues. Need for development. So now the research gives us enormous data about oromotor difficulties in children with ASD and other communication disorders. Now there is total absence of such tools in our country. Products are definitely available abroad, and since I'm also OPT level 1 and 2 certified, what I personally feel is the products are really very expensive, and may it be just their honey bear bottle, which they use it for sucking. In my clinical experience, whosoever kids have come to me for developing or building sucking skills, I had 100% success with just the Tetra Pak. So what I feel is, though the products are really good, but I feel the Indian population, most of it could not afford it. And the issue with the oromotor stuff is the material, or the straws and the whistles and all those things that we are using it for one child, we can't use it for other child because we use it in their mouth. So definitely every child should have their own kit, right? uh, Content and use of kit 1 and 2. So kit 1 has 8 straws, 5 whistles, a finger brush and some ice cream sticks. And of course the straws can be used for sucking and also for blowing bubbles in the water if you want to use it in a different way. The finger brush is used for the tongue movements, for eliciting the tongue movements inside. Whistles, again, both straws and whistles are in a graded manner. They are graded from easy to difficult. But if your aim is just that the child should learn blowing, then I would say, if you give the choice to the child, whatever whistle he picks up, I would like to start from there. Okay. And there are finger brush and some visual cards. Visual cards looks like this. Again, they are in a graded manner. So from from a single syllable to multisyllabic to 2 words to sentence level. When the oromotor muscle strength improves, when the lip strength improves, then we definitely have to transfer this skill into the speech. So that's why the card also are given in a hierarchical order. These are the contents in the manual. There are oromotor exercises given. What are the additional lip exercises that a parent or a professional can do apart from what's given in the kit. Kit 2 contains 3 teethers and an oral stimulation brush, which looks like a new brush, but it's not a proper new brush. It is just an oral stimulation brush. Now, we don't recommend this kit to everybody. So, children with ASD who require little additional sensory input is when this kit is recommended. Okay, so both the kit pricing is affordable, they are attractive, safe, and there are child-friendly components. Has also helped children with feeding difficulties, especially when there is a low tone and orosensory issues. And it has been very useful in helping children with suspected apraxia and other oromotor challenges. Okay, so there is, I have a video of this kid, but just to give you a brief about when this child came to us, she doesn't know how to suck liquid with the straw, and she kept on biting the straw. So because the lip closure was an issue and it was not there, and just after a 1 month of intervention, here she is. Okay, when you see, when you can easily make out there is a symmetry in the jaw now, the lips are closed and the child is drinking the liquid independently with the straw. Here is the link to purchase for you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, Falguni. We will move on to the question and answer round. So we will be taking up questions now. So continue to put your questions in the chat box. Shilpa, we do have a few questions to begin with.
Yes.
Do we have any information on oromotor movements in children with hearing loss or in the case of a cleft lip and palate? Please mention specific exercises to reduce drooling and maintain lip closure.
Okay, well, the exercises are given in the manual. So basically when we, okay, I think I forgot to mention that when the child is drooling, whether it is due to low tone or the muscles are tight, what exactly is the issue, that is important for me to know. And so the important point here is, see, what if mouth is the extension of your body. So again, what happens to your entire body happens here also. So if there is a issue with the overall body tone, if there is an issue with the overall muscle strength, of course, this area is also affected. So if we work directly here, you may not find a significant improvement versus if you work on the entire body tone and work also on the oromotor, you will get the gains very soon. Uh, does that answer the question?
I think it does, Shilpa. Thank you. Professor Belmonte had a few things on his mind, so I'll just put that out here. It can be difficult to elicit spontaneous oromotor activity during a fairly brief testing scenario. So can input from the parent or the caregiver be considered? Therefore, in taking the decision between no and only spontaneously.
Okay,
Or
well,
if, yeah,
I will not consider that because, yeah, seriously, I'm a little strict therapist here. So, see, that's why I think we tell the parent to get some eatables for the child. And if I see that the food is moving from here to here, I would say that the tongue movements are present. The tongue is moving from side to side. Okay, and of course the with the food items I can even check it outside if the child is able to protrude and lick the food items which are outside. The motor movements are present, but without I looking from my eyes, I will not give the score. Does that answer your question?
Professor Belmonte, please feel free to unmute yourselves and continue with the discussion if you'd like.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for that. I guess there are two sort of opposing forces here, right? I mean, number one is, and it's kind of like the Mullen versus the Vineland, right? Because you want to be able to capture everything, and at the same time, of course, you want controlled testing conditions that avoid wishful thinking.
Yes.
And I don't really know what the right answer is. It probably depends upon the purpose for which is being applied. But yeah, what I can intuit is that with appropriate first-person hands-on training from someone like you, it certainly would be possible to elicit most things, or to provide opportunities for most spontaneous behaviors during a time-limited testing session. But it's just, if you have an ongoing relationship with the child, you're considering just the child's behavior during the testing session in any case?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Right.
And also, see, when the child is coming first during my first consultation with the child, or what I would suggest is, like, for example, if child is just not in a mood to eat anything, and then also I have to finish my assessment, and I need to see what's happening. So at that time, so that's my last resort, that I will ask the parent to show me some videos of him eating.
All right. Okay.
Okay, so
That's
yeah,
useful
so
to know.
but yeah, with so that will give me, so if I watch 2 3 videos of how the child is exploring the spoon, how the child is eating, then I would definitely give a score. Now since you asked, I also wanted to, when I also wanted to clarify this bit for all the participants, that sometimes what happens when we ask a parent, can your child eat with spoon? 90% of the time the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, but yeah, I think Ria and I both have experienced this, that the answer is yes. But when I ask the parent, can you just feed the child with spoon in front of me, so what they do is, I just want to demo it, so they do this, and
Nah.
so here, the child's effort is nothing. The child is not using the lips. The parent is dropping the food inside the mouth. So, um, so these are the little things that we need to definitely observe, and not even observe, actually test uh, then and there during our first consultation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ria, we have any further questions?
Yeah, this is with respect to toileting or toilet training. Many a times, a child is not able to feel the urge to go to use the toilet. He's strong
Yes.
with in terms of cognitive levels, answers where to go for this purpose, all of that, but actually does not do when taken to the toilet. So What do we do in this case?
Well, yes, there are some children who don't feel the need to go to toilet. So how will they go? So basically, the bladder muscle. So we have one more sensory integration or sensory system into place now, which is the eighth sensory system called as the interoception. Okay. So there may be a problem with the interoception where the child's internal organs are not giving the signals to the brain that, oh, the bladder is full, you need to go pee. All of us are well integrated, so we can feel that, but a child whose interoception is less or less developed, I would say, will not be able to feel it. So if it's a problem with the interoception, I would go ahead and do all the bladder exercises to strengthen the bladder muscles of the child so that he gets the input. He gets the input from his urinary bladder that he needs to go and pass. So to develop the urge, again, if you are looking at the exercises, we do a lot of animal movements. Squatting is one where you can strengthen the urinary muscles, and there are many actually. So if you want more help regarding that, you can just contact me, we can chat and I can help you out.
Right. Any more questions? We'll look at a couple more minutes for questions. I think there aren't any more questions. I would like to call upon our founder, director, and managing trustee, Dr. Pratibha Karant, to give her concluding remarks, post which we will open the forum for a brief discussion before we end this session. Dr. Karant.
Thank you, Ria and Shilpa, for coordinating this entire series. Thank you all for the very warm response that we have received from you all. We were rather surprised that over 500 people had registered for this webinar series. On an average, we have seen 80 to 150 people participating in the different webinars. And we are really grateful to you all for this response. What I would like to do today is to just summarize perhaps some of the queries that have been raised, some of the issues that have been raised through the series, and also address some specific queries which were either not answered or perhaps need to be elaborated on a little more. Please bear with me when I go back to why we started ComDeal, how we ended up also setting up Communicaids, and what we plan to do in these lines in the future. When we began ComDeal, it was very clear to us, this was 20 years ago, that many young children with autism spectrum disorders who had the potential to catch up with their age-appropriate skills, reduce the behavioral issues that they were facing, and be mainstreamed, were not really making it, largely because of piecemeal, incohesive intervention and absolutely no generalization. And that's why we went into this comprehensive, cohesive model where there is a multidisciplinary team addressing the very many issues that these children face, with a very clear goal of getting as many as possible mainstreamed by 6 years of age. So while we acknowledge the fact that many of these children would require additional help through the remaining developmental stages, our initial focus was completely on early intervention. And we had hoped that we could develop programs for older children at a later stage. I think there was a couple of queries related to what happens to older children. Initially, we did plan to develop programs for older children too, but the success that we were getting with the younger children and the demand that grew to scale up these services meant that, we had to address this problem first. And that's when documentation came. We had no plans to document and share the program on the scale that we have shared subsequently. But when we saw the demand, and there were very few people who had exposure to children with autism spectrum disorders. I'm talking about therapists, particularly speech language therapists. So we had to train the professionals, even though they had, master's degrees in speech language pathology. We had to get them to learn to work with each other, that's the team, as well as learn from each other. And that is why we were unable to progress beyond the early intervention age, that's the preschool age, as well as the early years of schooling. But we have not given it up completely. We are currently doing field trials for social communication program, and we do want to address the issues of older children. So if any of you are interested in those areas, please do get in touch with us. There were a couple of questions about social communication issues in older children. We are now field testing a program for children around the age of 6 to 8 or 9. Once we document that, we will go further. Please note that anything that we do at ComDeal and publish in terms of clinical material under Communicaids, all of these are field tested, and only when we feel that it is something that can be used across the country as well as elsewhere, and that it is reasonably affordable, that's when we take up production of these materials. So we have spent at least the last 10 years documenting the different special interest, special difficulties that we found on the ground. Again, we are not really guided by theoretical work or research publications in this area. We are largely guided by what we see in the children that we work with. And please remember that we work with them on an everyday basis, sometimes up to 2 to 3 years. So that is what is guiding us, and we respond to those needs of the children, of the families, and of the therapists. And this is the rationale behind developing Communicaids. We are also focusing on early identification. And when I say early now, when we started 20 years ago, if a child came to us, even at the age of 3.5, 4 years, we were reasonably happy. Now we are looking at pushing down the age level to below 2 years if possible, because that's when we get the quickest and the best results, and that's the best returns for the investment of time and money and effort that the teams and the families do. So that is the focus now, trying to get them younger and helping issues that even younger children younger than 2 years face. So this is how Communicaids came about. And it will continue to be a response to the new issues that we identify while we work with the children in order to help therapists' families. It is important that we try and test them before we consider publication. I'm saying this because we welcome, I know that many of you all perhaps are developing materials like this. In this country, there's a dire shortage of materials, affordable materials, culturally friendly materials. So if you have materials that you think would be useful for the larger population of the communication disordered children, and if you would like to see it published as a part of Communicaids, please send your proposals. But please do remember that it's important for us that it be field tested, tried, and it address particular issues. I'm also happy to announce that beginning this November, when we celebrate our 20th anniversary, we will be announcing some grants to support material development for children. What we would require is a proposal, a simply written proposal saying what you want to do, why you want to do it, what is involved. And we will look at supporting individuals in terms of offering them financial support, with a commitment, of course, that this will be field tested and a prototype submitted to us for publication. So that's the general information that I wanted to share with you. There were also some specific queries which were, I think, not adequately addressed during these webinars. One of the queries that I would like to address is the changes that have been brought about in the CDDC. I think somebody asked about the color coding, somebody asked about the profiles. I must apologize for the inconsistencies, because if you look at the version published in 2007, they're all in black and white. And at that time, in fact, we had a different color coding system. We had different colors for different skills. But then as we worked with these children, we did realize that the environment and who the child is with, the comfort level of the child, all of these matter, particularly with children with autism spectrum disorders, vis-a-vis their performance. I think those of you who have worked with these children will recall parents having said, oh, he can say it when he wants to. He will say it, on his own, but when you ask him to do it, he won't do it. So it was important for us that the child learn to do these skills, not only with his parent or his therapist, but that he learned to hold his own vis-a-vis these skills in a classroom, in outside settings, with strangers. And of course, there was a difference, a pretty reliable difference depending on where the child was, which meant that the environment, the people he was with, all of these affected his performance. And that is when we started the color coding for the stability of the skill. So you will not find this in the earlier version of the published CDDC. You will find it in the more recent version. In fact, we are overhauling the whole thing, and a new version will be out by November this year, where we will try and update it in all of these aspects, including validity, reliability measures, the color coding, how you rate, how you calculate percentage, as well as the software that we have developed to be able to do this without too much physical effort. That leads me to the question of, I think one of you asked, what is the difference between emerging versus inconsistent? I know Nirupama did answer this, but I would like to elaborate on this a little more, largely because of what I've just shared. An emerging response from a child is when the child has learned to do it, but he's doing it clumsily, when the articulation is not clear, the motor movement is not clear. The child has no difficulty in actually producing what he's capable of producing. Maybe a word which is not very clear, or an action which is not very precise. But anytime you ask him, he will do it. That is an emerging response. As against that, you have an inconsistent response, which is dependent on where the child is, who is he with. So on his own, he'll utter an entire phrase. But if you ask him to produce a word, the same word, he may not be able to do it. Or when he's with his mother, he will produce the word. But if you ask him to do it in front of a teacher or in front of a stranger, he's unable to do it. And that leads me to the next point that I want to make, which is our position vis-a-vis the apraxias. The motor, the general apraxias, ideomotor apraxias, the speech apraxias. I think this is just gaining attention over the last maybe few years in the autism literature. For a long time, people did not recognize that these children had motor issues because they were beautiful looking children. They looked like anybody else. And in fact, some of them had extraordinary balancing skills. I remember parents reporting saying he'll climb up a cupboard and sit on top of the cupboard without any fear of falling. So these were the confusions that we've had, but I think it is now clearly documented that the children do have specific motor movement difficulties, particularly when they're asked to do it voluntarily. Okay. Involuntary, it's done reasonably well. And this is a defining criteria for apraxia. Now, with children, of course, it is difficult to identify whether it is an apraxia or a motor movement difficulty, which is consistently present. And that is because the child does not have the background of having mastered the skill, and then you see this confusion. Whereas if you've seen an adult with an apraxia, it becomes very clear. Because here is a person in his 50s or 60s, has had a stroke, and you see these apraxias in them, you will see the clear difference. And I think my experience with the adults is what helped me with the children to help identify the apraxia as well as to help address it. Now, if you look at the literature on apraxias, both with adults and even more so with children, the general approach is that of drilling, like you would drill with the behavioristic approach, or even the articulatory training that we speech language pathologists are trained to do. Unfortunately, what it does is it focuses on the motor movement and on demand, which is what makes it particularly difficult for these children. So in the ComDeal Trust, we do not use this drilling approach. We, as with all of our other interventions, we try to support the child's overall development and mastery in a naturalistic setup by eliciting this behavior and by reinforcing it and building up the child's confidence. And we have seen that this has helped children. It is slow, it is not dramatic, but once the child masters it in that way, he is capable of sustaining it much better than on demand, training under demand, which of course has a way of giving in exactly when you want it. So I hope this difference between why we treat it in the manner that we do is clear. I'm trying to spend a little time over this and explain this position. We have not published on this as yet. Hopefully, we will, I'm sure we have enough documentation, but that is something that we need to really put into a format which will be acceptable for research publications. And we do intend to do that, hopefully sooner rather than later. But if you look at the literature also, you will see that over the years, when children have been given this kind of a support, the number of nonverbal children and the extent of the severity of the lack of motor production has been reducing when they get good early intervention. So if you do elicit this and support the children and build up their confidence in motor activities, including speech, we have a reasonably good chance of mainstreaming these children and getting them to function like everybody else. So that's the approach that we use, and these are the reasons why we use the naturalistic surrounding, the naturalistic methods of learning, the naturalistic reinforcements, and give the time to the child to master these skills. If you recall the proto-vocabulary book, again, it's the same principle which underlies it. Instead of drilling on speech sounds, we look at what the child already produces, give it a certain form, give it a semantic token to match, get him to use it in real life, and then shape it up to more accurate speech and a more diverse speech production, which is what happens in everyday speech learning by children across the world. So this is the difference in our approach. And even within our population, of course, we are identifying children earlier, they're coming younger. The number of nonverbal children is reducing. We do have instances of children who had started speaking, acquired some speech, and then when this focus on accurate production and perfect articulation starts, they nosedive. Earlier, it used to be called regression. So I would like you all to be aware of these contradictions. Ultimately, of course, you will be guided by your own conviction of what works and what doesn't work. But I think it is necessary to be aware of these contradictions and to be sensitive to what you're seeing in a given child. There was another question on FMIP. I think I partially addressed it when it was asked. I think the question was, does it work as effectively? I don't know whether I mentioned that one of the things that we really miss in the FMIP is the group sessions. The child doesn't get exposed to group participation. So we do want to add on group sessions for FMIP, which will bring it closer to the regular ComDeal programs. There were also questions on social stories. I think somebody asked for references for social stories. I'm sorry I didn't have the time to get you the websites for it, but if you Google it, you will get it. If you don't, please email us, or we'll put up those on our website within a week or two. There was one question which addressed the DSL as a waste paper basket term. So this is somebody who's obviously heard me talk earlier. I know when I was a student, and for a very long time after that, children who had developmental language disorders, developmental speech disorders, delayed speech and language was the catch-all phrase that we used for these children. We barely studied them in any detail except to say child has 2 words or 4 words or 6 words. It is these children that we are studying at greater depth, okay, in a broader framework like the profile that we are using. And yes, it is showing us sub-patterns. There are very clear sub-patterns. Again, we have not published this. We have enormous data collected. I should be ashamed to say that we have still not really looked at it from a research perspective and put out the information, but hopefully again we will do it soon. And I am convinced that we will. They're already, in fact, influencing our therapy approaches, because we have it in the profile of each child, and the therapists discuss between themselves. The intervention is provided accordingly, and you see the child moving. So it is there clinically. We know it is there in terms of our profile that's there. But quantitatively, subcategorizing them is something that we are yet to do. So yes, if you're using the term DSL still, I don't think it's in use anymore, but if you're still using the term, yes, it is a waste paper basket term. And we need to be much more focused. We need to have much more clarity in identifying the subgroups, because our intervention is dependent on that. And the fruitfulness of our intervention is linked to identifying the pattern. So I hope that I have addressed most of the questions. If there are some still left, I would be happy to address them now. You are most welcome to email us with your queries, with your suggestions, with your ideas. We look forward to continued interaction with you all, and let's make it a win-win situation for all of us.
Thank you, ma'am. We will be taking up anything that you all would like to discuss or take up at this point of time with Dr. Karand. So please continue to put your questions or remarks in the chat box, and we'll take them up for discussion. Ma'am, there is one question or one thing that Ms. Sonali would like us to discuss. The difference in children coming to ComDeal in the past 10 years and now, in terms of their issues, their problems, their diagnosis, behavior issues, etc.
I would say that right away, because the average age is going down. Certainly the families are coming younger. So, younger children means easier work for us and better outcome. So from that point of view, it has become easier on us. And we're glad that this has happened. The one negative thing that I have faced in the last few years, and that is largely because of the advocacy from practitioners of OPT, is that they want us to directly do speech therapy. Okay, and I've explained this, why we don't do direct traditional speech therapy with these children, because of the multiplicity of issues, and because of the praxic nature of their difficulties, and because of the influence of the surroundings and the people they are with. So that is the reason why we don't do it. But hopefully, with the help of our data, we will take a strong position on this and we will advocate it, but it's very difficult to convince parents. First and foremost, in the early years, I remember that, there was so much pressure on our speech therapists because they would come for a month or two and say he's not even saying a single word. Okay, we are coming to speech therapist and he's not saying a single word. So it took us a long time to explain to them, and we did it with the help of the profile, showing them, what was not in place, what was needed before speech could come. Then we would try to get them to see children younger than 1 year, or, which is where their children were in terms of overall functioning. And then say, would you expect a 6-month-old child to speak or a 9-month-old child to speak? And finally, when people came to our program, we would tell them in our first counseling, when they sought admission, we would tell them, yes, provided that for 3 months, you don't ask us to show samples of the child speaking. We would explain why we were doing what we were doing, like settling the prerequisite learning skills. And this is something that most of us therapists, neither speech therapists, nor occupational therapists, nor any of educators, really focus on. None of us work on the prerequisite learning skills. We make an issue about it in terms of talking about it when we write about these children, saying that they're very poor in this. But nobody addresses this. And we also learned it on the job. When in the first few years, when we worked with these children, we found that some were picking up in a comprehensive manner, whereas others were not. And they were having very patchy skills. Patchy skills are not enough to get you to mainstream. And then when we thought about it and looked at it, we realized that it was because of the attention, the sitting tolerance, all of those, that these children were not picking up like other children were. There's another point that I would like to make here, and that is, we are not curing anything in the child. Okay, we are addressing the issues that interfere with their learning, and because we want them to find their rightful place in the school, in the world, we make we try our utmost to bring them on par with children of their age level, because particularly in countries like ours, the schools are not accommodative. So we have to get them, and we counsel the parents that this doesn't mean that we have cured anything. The child has had difficulties, we've helped him with it, we've brought him to his age level. Now, these are things that will continue with him. Obviously, when he grows, it will stabilize a little more if he's fortunate enough to have the right kind of support. But we are preparing the child to learn for himself. We are neither setting anything right in him, nor are we saying that, he's not going to have any problems after this. But we would like to do our utmost to help him to learn by himself. That is our goal. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, ma'am.
If there's anyone else, please feel free to ask us. It helps us learn too. So if there aren't any more, I think Riya, Shilpa, maybe we can conclude.
Yes, ma'am. Please do write to us in case you all want to know a little more about our training programs. And as mentioned on the slide, the certificate training programs will include what we have covered in our Communicaids webinar in brief. So if you all want more detailed training in any of these, do get in touch with us so that we can guide you on how we can go ahead with that. Write to us on these email IDs. Thank you all for participating in this webinar series, for appreciating the way in which we put these across to you. I think we've got a lot of comments on how it has helped many of you, and how you all got to know about a lot of other Communicaids that we have developed in the recent past. So thank you all for your participation, for your feedback. Do write to us in case you want to collaborate with us for anything. Thank you all once again, and have a very good evening.
Good, Shilpa, Ria, all of you, the entire team.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity.
Learning experience for all of us, but we got a good response and that was important.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay then, bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye now.